We are going to the moon, and we are going there to stay this time. That's the plan that the American government, NASA, and dozens of their international and commercial partners have made.
And assuming that they can stick to that plan, what we are looking at is so much more than just landing people on the moon. First, we need to talk about where this moon base is going to be located. The moon is a big place, and every previous human landing has happened right around the middle. NASA has identified 13 potential landing sites for the Artemis program. They are mostly on little patches of science.
This will be a deeply fascinating region for scientific discovery, but it will be equally as dangerous for the people who need to.
So this is going to require infrastructure like we've never seen before. All of the fundamentals for a city on Earth. Where we're going, we do need roads and landing pads and other solid surfaces to operate and build on.
The problem that needs to be solved is dust. The lunar surface is coated in a relatively thin, yet incredibly light and...
During the Apollo missions, it was known to cut through the outer layers of spacesuits and scratch the glass on the astronauts' helmets. To make matters worse, the dust is also clingy. Dust accumulation on the lunar roving vehicle caused it to overheat by clogging up the radiator.
The trick is that without atmosphere, and with very little gravity, once you kick up dust, it can really travel.
When Apollo 12 landed on the moon, they tried to get as close as possible to a probe called Surveyor 3 that had already touched down on the moon a few years earlier.
So if we are going to build a moon base where people are constantly landing and lifting off and driving vehicles and walking around,
that means roads and landing pads and hard surface areas around our base camp.
The quick and dirty answer in the short term could be rhino snot.
That's a nickname that the US military gives to a spray-on product that they use to stabilize dirt roads and helicopter landing pads out in the field.
It was popular in Afghanistan for turning desert sand into solid material. They found it particularly useful for eliminating dust clouds created by helicopter takeoff and landing.
So that's a potential solution for the short term. It's not ideal because we have to transport all of this rhino snot.
So a more sustainable answer that can actually be scaled up to build a small city on the moon would be to just melt the surface into solid glass.
This is something that the European Space Agency is working on right now, with an experiment called PAVR.
This is an idea that kind of dates back to 1933, when people thought that you could pave roads through the deserts of Earth just by melting the sand.
Makes sense, right? Glass is just melted sand. The idea was wildly impractical for that time and place, but in a future moon base, it might be the best option we've got. Now, we probably don't have to bring a giant laser to the moon. Instead, what we could do is set up a big magnifying glass to concentrate the sunlight. Either way, this would be a slow process. The Europeans working on the PAVR experiment estimate that we could make a 100 square...
That's something like 100 times more slowly than paving roads with traditional asphalt.
So it's a big job, but we are going to spend a lot of time driving on the moon. Our primary transportation will be pressurized rover vehicles, like this one being developed by the Japanese space program in parts. Our primary transportation will be pressurized rover vehicles, like this one being developed by the Japanese space program.
Rovers like this will be how we move around the moon base without having to constantly be getting in and out of spacesuits all day. You move directly from your pressurized... This is also how we explore deep into the wild. Lunar Cruiser is essentially an RV for the moon.
Now, having an RV is cool and all, but where do we live?
The basalt composition is higher than expected in this sample.
Yes, the sensor readings confirm it.
Astronauts climb a ladder to reach the second level in the inflatable module, and this expands to 6.5 meters.
Going up to the third level is the primary living space for the crew. There are beds, a medical station, kitchen, and computer workstation.
Now, if we can get past the foundation period, then we need to start building permanent structures on the moon, something that provides a level of protection and security.
And we also need to be protected from meteorite impacts.
To accomplish this, we go back to the beginning of human architecture. We build with bricks.
Final brick is secured. We are within tolerance.
Acknowledged. The pad is ready for calibration.
The idea is that we could still use something like an inflatable habitat or even a solid metal structure, but then
This should mitigate most of the dangers from radiation and micrometeorite impacts, while providing an insulating layer to make heating and cooling the habitat more efficient.
Then, in November, they transported those bricks to the Tiangong space station, where they were placed on an external experiment rack.
The bricks will spend the next 3 years being exposed to the vacuum of space, cosmic rays, and large temperature changes.
Either way, none of this is going to work without power. So where does that come from? Well, there's the sun. We all know that one.
Because the moon rotates so much slower than the Earth, it ends up with this very long day and night cycle.
2 weeks of sun, followed by 2 weeks of darkness.
That was never a problem for human missions, because those guys were only ever up there for 3 to 4 days tops.
But when we send an autonomous lander or rover with solar power, they are only able to work for 14 days. Now, let's flip back to our map of the 13 potential Artemis landing sites. Check out all of those shadows. So, the answer is to go nuclear. Nuclear power in space is not exactly new. China has been operating we need a nuclear power plant on the moon, and that's exactly what NASA has been working on for several years now.